Welcome to Funnel Reboot, the podcast that shares ideas on how to upgrade your lead generation. Here is your host, Glenn Schmeltzley.
Hey, Glenn here. Welcome to Funnel Reboot. Today we're diving into how AI helps marketers. But first, I want to remind you that I really want to hear what you want in your next episode. Please give me your feedback either on Instagram or Twitter or through our listener feedback line or on our website where you complete the contact form. So to today's episode. Lots of experts have said that AI is transformational to business. Now, call me cynical, but when you look at how the average marketing team functions in 2022, it doesn't seem like much of our work has been transformed. My guest today, a mainstream marketer who hasn't been influenced by all the hype, will share her appraisal of AI's practical use. Our guest is a longtime Cleveland-based marketer who has worked in corporate, agency side, as well as owning a small business. She worked for years with the Content Marketing Institute, which was led by Joe Pulizzi. You can catch him on episode 56 of the show. Nearly a year ago, though, she joined the Marketing AI Institute as Chief Growth Officer. But admittedly, she had very little hands-on experience with AI to that point. Brought on to grow the relatively new institute in a hurry, she's gotten up to speed on how to use these tools. She'll tell us her story, including how the way we traditionally do things needs to change a bit in order to get the benefits of AI. She lists many resources and tools in her talk, and we've compiled them into a table that's in the show notes. And I hope that by listening to her, you'll try some of them out and come away as excited as she is about how AI can be a superpower for today's marketing. Let's go listen to Cathy McPhillips. I'm really glad today to welcome Cathy McPhillips. Welcome, Cathy.
Hello. Thank you so much for starting off my Wednesday with you.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to do it. And we've got a great topic today and a topic that is near and dear to your heart. Why don't you start by explaining to people where you work?
I work at the Marketing Artificial Intelligence Institute, the Marketing AI Institute, and I've been there for about 8 months, coming up on 9 months. So this world is new to me too.
Sure. And I think that that's a great way to help people understand that we have, there's been a lot of talk about AI. And of course, Hollywood's done its part with, over the last couple of decades, giving us more so the worst possible way that AI could ever be implemented. But we have a lot of misinformation out there, and I'm hoping that you can help maybe boil down some things for us and help make clear what AI can do in particular to make a marketer's life better.
Absolutely.
So why don't we start with maybe you just telling me what your first blush with AI tools was like, how you have come to get into this. You are a marketer, like you're a practitioner, just like me and a lot of us listening. So just share your experience of how you've gone through the journey.
Absolutely. So I started working, I've worked at 2 agencies in the past. And then about 10 years ago, I started working at the Content Marketing Institute, where I was marketing to marketers about marketing. So that was kind of meta and fun. And Paul Reitzer, who's the CEO of where I work now, had an event, his Maycon event, and I trust Paul. I believe what he's doing. I wanted to support him, so I went to the event, and I left there, and I was like, oh my gosh, like all these things that I'm doing, I could be doing so much faster or more efficiently or more strategically or something. So that kind of was my first venture into that world of AI. And then fast forward 2 years, I started working with him. So, I've been there, like I said, about 8 months, and both Paul and Mike Kaput, who head up the content for the Institute, they're just both so smart and so in the weeds on all things AI. And I know that from a demographic standpoint, we're trying to reach marketers. So I'm like, okay, if I want to explain this to marketers, I really need to go through and test some things out myself. So one of the first projects I did was a few months ago. we were preparing for MACON 2021, our virtual event, and I used a tool called copy.ai. So what I did was I plugged in, you just open it's a free tool. So I typed in our website, typed in a quick 100-word description, hit enter, and magically 10 pages of copy points appeared for me. And I said, oh my goodness. So I started reading through them, and some of them were really, really good. And some of them were not. And there was a lot of it in between. But two things, and I think, you and I talked about this prior, the two things that were most, that I thought were wow, were one, I had a starting point. I wasn't starting with a blank sheet of paper. It was giving me some copy that I could tweak because none of it was 100% perfect. And two, the way I talk, the way I write is pretty consistent, very consistent, almost to a fault. So this tool gave me a new way to look at the event. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I wonder if this will resonate more with the marketers versus how I've been presenting the event. So, I have a chance now to A/B test social media, A/B test emails based on the two different approaches of copy. So, and like I said, this just was a huge time saver where I was able to reinvest that time working on strategy, working on talking to customers. And so while I'm still ultimately doing the job of writing all that copy, it took hours out of out of
Yeah.
my day to reinvest in something more important, like talking to people.
Okay. Yes, a ton there. So let's maybe take a minute, and if a Mike or a Paul were here, let's just imagine, and I'm just completely winging this, but s- let's kind of see what copy AI may have been doing to get this where and how it's helpful for us. So you gave it, you say a URL, right?
Correct.
And was there anything else you needed to give it?
I gave it 100 words of copy,
100 words. Okay.
up to 100
Right. All right. That you'd written?
that I had written.
Gotcha. Okay. So AI is, really just using computers to try and program how a computer will tackle a problem instead of using a human to program. What I'm imagining it would have done is it's scouring all of the copy that's on that landing page and probably associated pages. It's just hoovering in tons of it, but then it's taking the 100 words that you had given, and it's probably mapping that against how that other copy is written. Let's imagine that maybe Mike or Paul would have put that other copy there. So it's overlaying these two, but it's taking the way that you write, like you say, the structure, you normally happen to put the object of the sentence maybe 5 words away from the verb. Maybe Mike and Paul just write a little differently.
Hmm.
And it's mashing it all. And then, as you say, it came back with pages and pages of permutations, right? Just
Right.
different ways that could be arrayed, but it understands, and I'm sure behind the scenes it's got an English language, you know, algorithm that says, okay, here's basically how English works. Here's an English sentence that makes sense, and you have to be close to this because if you're not making sense. So, do you think it's doing anything more complicated or more voodoo like than that, or is that pretty much what must be happening?
Well, I think it's just taking in all the data that I gave it, all the data it's scrubbing, like you said, from the website, and then all of the data it's learning from other customers, how they're writing with their language. And as I go in, and I could actually go in and I could change some of the copy that they suggested, it's
Yep.
learning the changes that I made so that next time I'd like another
Yes.
iteration, it's just constantly, the machine's constantly learning. And when you go back to like how is it doing all of this as a marketer, I don't care. The fact
Right.
I just want the output.
Right.
I just want the end result. So the fact that I just need to understand how AI is helping me. I don't need to understand how AI works. I am not a data scientist. I don't want to be a data scientist. Um, so I
Yes.
just need to understand the
Yes.
value of this technology with AI versus just another technology.
Right. And you've highlighted a very important point there, that it's constantly getting better. Um, I suppose my little ramble there was only to point out that it's doing things that if you had a battalion of office workers sitting around, maybe with, a lot of pairs of scissors and a lot of pieces of paper and maybe huge cork boards that, they could move words around and probably do this too. It just, there's no feasible way that you could do it with people, but with machines you can.
Right. And as marketers, I know I'm working on video, I'm writing social media copy, listening to on our social media channels, I'm writing web copy, I'm writing emails, I'm talking to people, like something's got to give. So where am I spending the most amount of my time that is repetitive, data driven, that I'm doing all the time, that I could say, if I just had a tool that could help me with this part of it,
Yes.
I'll still have my hand in it, but I really just need a little bit of help.
Yeah. And as you also said, you may, for whatever reason, have a segment of your audience that finds Cathy's writing style just not to their taste. But if you use something that is Cathy's style ish, like the AI is using, and you put it out, you might even be grabbing another segment,
Right.
which is fantastic. How many of us, can do something to step away from our own subjectivity? As humans, that's almost impossible. But with a machine, we can. And this is that I think, the Institute's known for saying, don't think of it so much as artificial intelligence, think of it as intelligence augmented, right?
Right. And
Um,
just there's a whole like math, or not math, like a art and science to this, where
yep.
I'm writing in my style, my craft, and then this AI can say, we've got all this data saying that this might just be better for you. So it's just changing it a little bit. It's not like it's having to reinvent anything. It's taking what I know I want and it's improving it.
hmm hmm And that we can do some improvement. There are some times where any of us who've been, speaking with a smart speaker, we understand that the constructions can seem a little weird, and that's where we step in, right? Our little nudges here and there will be really important, because people in general, and I don't want us to kind of leave the topic without people knowing, no, writing is still going to be something that a human's eyes are going to see. Why? Because every other human is wired to understand how people speak and write. So if you just leave it to the computer, it's probably going to miss more often than hit, right?
Correct.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
We really have very good detectors for that. We have very good detectors when our phone rings during the dinner hour and it's somebody asking us, if we want to buy something. We're really good at understanding how fast to hang up.
Well, we talk a lot at the Institute about bots, conversational AI tools and bots. And the bots that are successful, one element of bots that are successful is they're not trying to be a human. They're not trying to pretend to be a human. They're trying to solve a quick problem before a human has to intervene.
Right.
The ones that try to pretend that there's actually a human writing back, um, don't just, the customer sees right through that,
Yeah.
and it's not as successful.
Yeah. The So yeah, let's actually talk about that for a bit, because when it comes to applications, it's important to understand how limited uh, bots are, how limited AI can be. Um, and this is where we come across, let's say, general versus narrow AI. So a bot that is popping up on a website that says, are you here for sales, service, or are you looking to get a job with us? Right? That's a great
Correct.
example of narrow AI, because it's bounded. It's asking you those three things. If you want to know, you know, um, what the founder does on their weekends, you ask the bot that, you're not going to get an answer.
Right.
Um, so we have to think about what we're going to task AI with. And I'm wondering if you could tell me just a little bit about how we should imagine the processes, or maybe some of the earlier organizing of data. We haven't talked about data yet, but if you're going to give data to some AI tool out there, uh, it it's not going to work well if it's the kind of unstructured data that we humans are very used to dealing with, right?
Right. Well, here's a good example. So my brother owns a restaurant,
Okay.
and he is very, he's small business, community, people driven, wants to have that touch on all of his customers, doesn't want, he wants to be the one. I said, I'll help him with the social media. And he said, help me get it off the ground, but I want it to be me. I don't want people to think that I'm not the
Right.
one doing it. I said,
Right.
you're crazy, but okay. So I helped him set up his Facebook page. And in the messenger feature, I said, just answer the questions. What's your website? What are your hours? Can I see a menu? Because those are the three questions people are going to be calling or going online to find
Guaranteed.
out. So, and he's like, well, and I said, Matt, people want that answer quickly. And if you're the one doing it and you're working at the restaurant, you're not going to get back to them in a timely manner. So help them where they need it as quickly as they can, knowing that if they want to get more information, they can write you another note and say, okay, can you take a party of 10th for this weekend, or can you host a party of 20?
Yeah.
Things like that a bot couldn't answer necessarily,
Yeah.
but just hit those pain points quickly without trying to pretend that it's you. And so I set it up for him, and that's AI. And he was like, oh, okay. So it's things like that that just take some of those um, very easy, low level responses to help your customers quickly, so they do come back and uh, are satisfied with the result.
Hmm.
So you can things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I guess that kind of takes us into maybe how we should measure the effectiveness here. The thing with all machine learning is that it has to have some kind of internal target that it is aiming for. So maybe that bot is looking for, if it finishes answering that question and it goes to, is there anything else I can help you with today? And the person says no, then the bot maybe goes, okay, I hit my target. I must have solved the problem they came for.
Right.
Um, do you recommend we kind of think of like having these tools just that we're thinking that they have a specific purpose before we even open the box, as it were, that we're thinking to ourselves, okay, how, like, if I were this thing's boss, how would I know that it's got a, that I'm going to give it a good performance review? What does success look like?
It depends. And it's such a funny answer, but it really does depend on what are your goals. Do you have a problem you're trying to solve, or do you have a use case that that a tool will help you with?
Hmm.
So, for example, with this copy.ai, my results were based on, did I get the job done quickly? So, the hours I saved was a result. Um, Using this copy and seeing if my conversions increased, that's a result. So things like that, but it doesn't need to be some huge thing. But like a good example would be like Market Muse is a fantastic tool, an example that we use all the time,
Yeah.
and we actually use it at the institute. That it scores your content. There's a real time text editor. It helps you with links. It helps you with SEO, and the content's very data driven. So the me or Mike, is inputting this copy in there. It's Mike's words, it's Mike's voice, but it's Market Muse is going in there and offering suggestions. So a measurable result of that is, did it perform better than the previous copy? Just
Right.
our website visits up, our page views up, our time spent on the page up, things like that, that you're measuring anyways based on the copy that you're already, the blog post and things you're already doing.
I think that's great, because even if someone is pessimistic about a tool's uh, improvements, you can simply say, fine, then measure those KPIs. When you've been doing it mostly under human power, then after this time, you're letting a bot do it. And if you don't see an improvement, well, switch to something else, try a different tool.
Well, and that's the thing, right now there's so many tools that have free 10 or 14-day trials,
Yep.
um, that I've been playing around with tools just because I want to see how else I can save a little bit of time in my day. And I'm still in the early stages of all of this. I've got a long way to go. Um, like I said, Mike's been using Market Muse and some of the other bigger tools, but I've been using some of the free ones just to test some things out.
It's great. Uh, Now let's also remember that we can go out to those tools, but I think in a lot of cases the tools are coming to us. And what I mean by that is, if we're a HubSpot user, if we're in Salesforce and we're using, the search box at the top, if we're noticing that any little tile pops up and says, this prospect may now be ripe for you to contact. Uh, I'm pretty sure that's AI that's doing that, right? There's probably not somebody back at the vendor who is staying up nights and weekends to send me those.
That is correct.
So, what can we do, even in the tools that are already giving us those little bits of augmentation? What do you think is incumbent on us to do? Like, should we make sure that we are even better with completing our data that we keep in these tools? Are we, good to maybe uh, try one of the recommendations because behind the scenes, the algorithm's going, oh, they responded to a recommendation. Let's give them another.
No, I think I would just ask people, talk to your customer success teams at the technologies you're already paying a lot of money for
Hmm.
and saying, what aren't we doing? What could we be doing better? Is there an AI component that is learning from the things that I'm inputting? And if there's not, is there a tool, then you talk to your team and say, is there a tool out there that will offer us some of that information? A good example is for years, I've used TweetDeck for social
Yep,
media.
me
I
too.
use it for social listening. I have my list set up. I have my columns all set up. Um, but it's incumbent on me creating lists, creating keywords I'm searching, lists, doing social listening. And then there's tools like Sprinkler that recognize, you go in the beginning, build your strategy within Sprinkler and say, here's our goals, here's things like this. It recognizes patterns in social data. It recognizes anomalies. It sees patterns in sentiment. And those are all the things previously I was just doing on my own.
Yes.
Um, it can triage messages based on how the language within the tweet, if it's more important, if it's just like urgent versus just a, hey, I had a great time at your
Hmm.
restaurant. Um, and it can help you find like brand affirming posts where you could say, this would be a great brand ambassador for us. This would be a great testimonial for our website. So it kind of just takes all that data that we were doing previously, and we're not using Sprinkler, and I'm still using TweetDeck. But just because right now we can't afford to use Sprinkler, but there are big brands that, oh my gosh, that would save so much time
Yeah.
um, to be using something like that, especially, in a prior role, I was running social media for a national restaurant brand. And it was the amount of social that went through in a given day was just, I've never seen anything like it. Every few seconds, someone was sending a message to
Fire
this
hose.
brand, a legit fire hose. So I couldn't have done, and I was just in TweetDeck responding. I was like, this would have been just such an amazing tool for me at that time. But that was also like 10 years ago, more than
Right.
10 years
But
ago.
I'm sure you were very guarded about even taking a coffee break because you knew you go and you come back, there's a whole whack more that you're going to have to respond.
Correct. Correct.
Um,
But having a tool that can just read the language, understand the language, process it, and it's not perfect, but it
right.
does give me a great starting point of, okay, here's where I'm going to prioritize things because I can't,
Yeah.
I was just doing it in the order it was coming in, but that wasn't necessarily the right way to do it.
Yeah. That's this is a really important point. And I think sentiment, which is what we're talking about, is probably the best way that we can help people understand how AI is we're trying to get together, right? We're trying to kind of make it man plus machine. And the thing about sentiment, where that always takes me, is back to Jeopardy and IBM Watson, right? And I remember them showing what Watson was doing. Watson doesn't have I mean, Jeopardy's particularly hard for computers. It's written backwards. You have to give the question, not the answer. The thing that Watson was doing was it was like you're describing with Sprinkler and others. It's it's trying to understand what's really being asked for, and then it's trying to predict what might be the thing that fits that. But it's going to come up with a bunch of them, and what it has to do is it's got to score them. And like you said, the it's not going to get it right every time. I bet what's happening behind the scenes is it just number 3 was the right one, but it kind of thought that, number 1 and number 2 choice that it had somehow on some scoring level, should come first. And it takes a human to look at that and go, uh-uh, actually, don't, send that pre-baked message back to that angry customer. I will write something because this demands a personal response. Answer number 3, let the human do it, is the right thing to do in this case.
Correct.
Yeah, and you just have to handle the exceptions then, or you have to supervise the AI as it's doing its thing.
Yeah, it just gives you more time to focus on the really important ones
Yeah,
that need a little bit more attention.
and because they don't mind doing the mind numbing, all the run of the mill ones,
Right.
and they don't
You
need a
know,
coffee
and
break.
when I was running social media for a few brands, one of the things is that a social media problem is not a social media problem, it's an operations problem or it's a something else problem.
Right,
It's just because it's surfacing on social media doesn't mean that
right.
that's, so it's giving us time to solve some of these bigger things, that fundamental things that we need to fix versus sending tweets back to people, which is very important. I don't, there is a
No, but that's
huge,
you can't band-aid it, right? I mean, band-aiding it by answering them and spending all day doing that, not by walking down the proverbial hallway and saying to the ops guys, "Hey, we've got to fix this."
mhm,
Yeah, it's totally true. And the machines are great for being able to separate the wheat from the chaff, right? To give us just those most important ones, to bubble those to the top so that we're not, lost there looking at that, unending feed. And because our brains, humans are not good at doing sustained things with, 99.9% accuracy. That's just not us. But
mhm.
computers can.
Well, I have a really good example for that.
Go for it.
So I, we do webinars every month, and I, when I started, I said, okay, who takes these videos and edits them? And Paul said, you do. And I was like, okay, well, I better learn how to edit videos. So I went into this tool, Descript, and uploaded the raw video. I needed to, chop off the beginning and add on, add an intro, add an outro, and it, I was while I was reading about how to do this, all of the whole Descript transcribed the video.
Yeah.
And I learned that rather than me going through, and I've tried to edit iMovies and things, for my kids' school
Yeah.
programs and
Yeah.
whatever, and you take the little, you have to zoom in and get the little, hit it just at the right place to, figure out where you're going to edit it. Well, in Descript, I learned that I could just take the words I didn't want in there and delete the words, and it would delete the video.
Yes.
And I was like, "Oh, I can edit videos."
Yeah.
So it's just amazing how that works. So, I mean, I can do those videos now in just a few minutes.
Right. Right. You're literally just reading a transcript and snipping out, just like you're editing copy.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And I could take out the ums and things like that, but really it was just I would say, "Okay, Paul, starting with, okay, we're gonna get started." Where previously, we had chit-chatted the past few minutes on camera.
Yeah.
So I just went to the okay, and I deleted everything before it, and the video was done. I was like, "This is magic."
Yeah. Yeah. It's taking, well, if again, the imaginary way that I'm looking at it is, let's say that it's sitting in front of one of those behemoth video editing tools, and it's like, I'm just whispering it to it what I want, and it's going ahead and furiously clicking through all of the, transition and all of those other selections that are on that power tool, and it's doing that, right?
Right.
And another simple example that uh, took somebody to point out to me is, if you're in Excel and you want something to happen repeatedly, you go up to that little thing in the tools menu called a macro. You, go cursor right, cursor down, and you do the steps a few times, and you hit stop, and then you just tell the macro to go again, or you tell it to go again 1,000 times. It's just going to keep doing it. And it's taken that, multi-step process, and it's made it one button click for you.
Right.
Right. And that's the way we need to kind of imagine. Now, that's arguably automation, but you can blend automation, like maybe what we'll call dumb automation, with some smarter AI. And together, you're getting something where the whole is better than the sum of the parts. Right. You can use these things together. You have you said copy AI is spitting out all the lead in text, and then you have a real video with real people, but it's been edited into script, and it's sitting on a landing page where the landing page is gathering information and perhaps suggesting how improvements might be made. Well, there's 1 + 1 + 1 equals 1,000. It's not 1 + 1 + 1 equals 3. The benefit that you're getting with using AI at each of those steps.
Right. Well, so then I took the video and I wanted to create a 2-minute snippet for YouTube to drive people to the landing page to
Okay.
get the demand version.
Yep.
So I took again, I just chopped the text I wanted for that 2-minute snippet. And then I wanted to put that on YouTube. So I uploaded the video to YouTube. I cut and pasted that copy into YouTube, and YouTube matched up the text to Paul's voice.
For
So
captioning.
the
Yeah.
captioning was
Yep.
to the second what Paul was saying. And the same thing, I was just like, "Oh, okay, that's done." So it's just finding these things that we're doing that are saving us time. Would I love to have Persado for all of our writing, for Drift for all of our
Yes.
conversational AI, for Market Muse for all these things? Oh my gosh, absolutely. But I have these opportunities to take all these smaller tools like Copy.ai to script and test them out and learn what I really need AI to help me with. Because I'm doing all these different things, but what do I enjoy doing? What is taking me so much time? What am I doing the same thing every single month? How can AI help me with some of those tasks?
Yeah. And you mentioned a hugely important task, which is when can you as a human be interacting with other humans, be they customers, be they sponsors, be they coworkers, where you're trying to define strategy. Let's, you know, try to use the time that we're sitting in front of a machine to take us away from the machine so we can go do that.
Oh, I was very intentional about it. I'm like, okay, I estimate I saved, 4 or 5 hours. I am going to go schedule phone calls with customers because I refuse to waste this time
Yeah.
doing something,
Yeah. It was newfound time. Yeah. You want it back, basically.
right.
When it comes to people who want to dive a little deeper into this, I know that they probably need to, soak up more. Um, and the Marketing AI Institute, that's its stated purpose, right? And
It is.
you've got ways for people to maybe assess where they are on this journey to understanding and utilizing and getting the benefit of AI. So, can you tell us a little bit about what kind of content and assessments you have?
Sure. So we have a daily blog, which is digested into a weekly newsletter if people wanted to subscribe to that. And we also have webinars. We have an intro to AI series, our class we say 30 minutes, but we sometimes talk for about an hour.
Yep.
But Paul goes through and says, okay, here's what AI is. Here's why you should be thinking about it, how it can help you. And here are some use cases that you can go to get started. So it's basically like, give me 30 minutes of your life just so you can hear why we're doing what we're doing and how it can help you. And then after that, it's up to you to decide if you want to take it further or not. So on our website, under sort resources, there is a drop down on our webinar page that shows that intro to AI series. And it's really cool. He just kind of goes through, here's why we started the company. And here's, and the reason why he started it was he owns an agency.
Mm-hmm.
And he basically said, agencies do so many repetitive things for their clients. They
Yep.
personalize them to their clients, but there's so many things that are, analytics, new business pitches, things like that, where how much can some of that be streamlined by smarter technology? So he said he just really got into the weeds on AI and said, I just want to help marketers have a happier life doing things they love doing versus and let the computer help them with things it can help with.
Sure.
So that's really the whole mission of the company. So when I started, I said, so basically our goal is just to have people use better tech. And he's like, yep. I'm like, oh, okay. So, sure, we have an event, we have other things that we know where we have some revenue, but we have a lot of free things out there that people can just come and say, let me just give this a shot, or let me just learn more.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and get
so
it
yeah,
started and maybe help rid us of some of the myths like AI is going to take our jobs away. I like how you just said it there, where we're using tech to free ourselves to do the best things, right? To do the non-repetitive, the formulation of strategy, the um, takeaways where we conclude, oh, here is what's actually happening in our marketing funnel, or here's what's happening in this arena, and we can understand it because we've let the data just compile massive amounts and boil it down to something that is human sized, right?
actionable. Like we have
Yeah.
all this data. We have so much data.
Yeah.
What website, what pages they landed on, what emails they opened, what are we using any of that data? other than segmenting by opens and unopens or things
Yeah.
like that. Some really basic things like this is a superpower. If we just use the right tool, all these, we can be so much more efficient and effective.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. So, Cathy, I can't thank you enough for coming on and talking about this. So, just remind us again where people should head if they're interested in either the Marketing AI Institute or yourself or Macon.
MarketingAIinstitute.com is the website. Macon.ai. That's our annual event it's held in person this year, yay, in Cleveland, Ohio, August 3rd through the 5th. And I'm on LinkedIn, Twitter, Cathy McPhillips on LinkedIn, easy to find.
Perfect. And we'll have all that in the show notes, including the tools that you mentioned. We'll make sure we get that. And thank you. I hope, listener, that you've come away with understanding some of the really basic people processes and technologies that you would need to do, but that you could absolutely transform how you do marketing if you're leveraging AI. And I hope that you come away from this with understanding one way to make your funnel even better.
I love that. And honestly, I'm a 30-year marketer and a new AI marketer.
Yep.
So I'm learning and being very forthcoming on the steps I'm taking along the way. So if people have questions, there is no question that I will laugh at because I probably asked myself the same thing.
Perfect. All right. Well, that's a great offer to make, and I encourage listeners to take you up on it. Thanks, Cathy.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. Follow the show on Twitter @Funnel Reboot. If you like what you have heard today, please consider leaving a review wherever you get your podcasts.